Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to our master lecture on brain-based learning, understanding language development and the bilingual brain. My name is Ioulia Lopez. I'm an associate professor at the University of South Florida, and I'm on the program committee, and I'm so thrilled that we were able to have this invited session this afternoon about brain-based learning. This session came about from a meeting in Chicago last year at the White House Excellence in Hispanic Education meeting, where Linda and Libby Doggett have been talking a lot about the dual language learners in early childhood and early care and education, and really the emerging literature coming out on brain-based learning and the impact of bilingualism on children's school readiness and academic development. And from that, they ended up putting together a position paper that just came out. So hopefully you've all seen it. And I'm sure Libby's going to talk a little, Linda's going to talk a little bit about it today. So I was very excited to be able to propose this session for this conference and have it accepted. And so today we have Dr. Ioulia Kovelman, who's going to be talking to us about her research and the research of others regarding brain-based learning, specifically with bilingual children and thinking about language, literacy, and cognition. Dr. Kovelman is an assistant professor at the University of Michigan. She's been doing a fellowship at the University of Texas at Austin for the past year, so she's ready to move back to the frozen tundra. Her research focuses on bilingual language and reading acquisition in young children. She's especially interested in how bilingual exposure to different types of languages affects both the language ability and the neural architecture for learning to speak and to read. And to accomplish these goals, she studies bilingual infants, children, and adults using behavioral and neural imaging methodologies, especially the functional near-infrared spectroscopy, which she'll explain, and functional magnetic resonance. That one I know. And then she will be our main speaker today, so she'll have about 45 minutes to show us all sorts of cool brain pictures and videos, which I'm very excited about. And then we'll have a discussant, which is Linda Smith, and she's a Deputy Assistant Secretary for Early Childhood Development for the Administration of Children and Families at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. She provides overall policy coordination for the Head Start and Early Head Start program, the Child Care and Development Fund, and serves as the liaison with the U.S. Department of Education and other federal agencies. Her office is the focal point for early childhood policy at the federal level. She previously served as executive director for the National Association of the Child Care Resource and Referral Agencies, where she represented more than 650 community-based agencies concerned with the care of children in their earliest years. She led the organization through significant growth and transformation and was the driving force behind their national policy agenda and strategic plan to improve the quality of childcare nationwide. So we're very excited to be able to have Linda. I know she's a very busy person, and so we're really excited to have her here to give us the policy perspective, as well as more of a practitioner-focused space too as well. So with that, I want to welcome Dr. Kovelman.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you for coming. This will work?
Where do you point to?
That's a good question. Where do I point to? Okay, that's the lighter.
There we go. Oh, no.
That was in the opposite direction.
No, it didn't work.
It's all right. I will just begin. So I would like to start by thanking Lisa for having us here and organizing the symposium. I would also like to thank my colleague, John Hagan, for helping organize this event as well. And of course, Linda, whom Lisa has already thanked extensively. I would like to point everybody's attention that very recently, Linda has put forth a report on, rather a policy statement on the benefits of bilingual education. I strongly recommend it for yourselves, your students, your colleagues, your partners, whoever you're working with. Should I keep going? The slides are going to come. So I hope everybody had a lovely 4th of July weekend. And with that, I wanted to remind everybody this is a great country. It's a great country of opportunities. If you hear my Russian accent, it's a country of immigrants. It's a country of many races and many faces and many languages. With that comes great potential. United States is the country with the most Nobel laureates in the world, and the 2016s have not yet been announced, but for the 2015, the last year, we had 11 Nobel laureates. 4 of them are from the United States. Of those 4, only 1 person was born in the United States. So there are lots of ingredients that are going into becoming a Nobel laureate, of course, but by the end of the talk, I hope to convince you that being a bilingual goes into the mix. Now, that being said, when we think about bilingualism, it's like a swing. We go back and forth between the notion, isn't this wonderful? Babies, like sponges, absorb languages. Try learning Russian today. Tell me how you do, right? So we think, oh my goodness, babies can do this. This is so wonderful. On the other hand, we are absolutely panicked and paranoid. They're delayed. They're confused. It's really not good for them when they're so young. It's going to create all manner of delays. And from that comes an assumption that the baby's brain is not built to handle 2 languages. It's a big assumption to make. And this assumption is made in the context of learning to read. This assumption is made in the context of learning to speak and in terms of cognitive development. So we're going to talk over these 3 topics and revisit the idea of whether or not the brain is built to handle multiple languages and what in fact happens to the developing brain when that happens. You're going to check. Thank you. I come from Russia, old style, give me chalkboard. We can do this. So, good thing I printed out the slides before I came here, so I have some idea of what I'm supposed to say. So learning to read, my friends. Learning to read is an important skill. So some of you may have heard the word cat, and some of you may even know it's associated with something furry that says meow and has a tail. And then when you arrive at kindergarten or 1st grade, you have to learn to associate with something that spells C-A-T. Now, it took me almost a year of arguing with my kindergartner who said, no, Mama, it should spell with a K. Therein lies the problem, right? So in order to learn to read, you have to map the sound to print and the meaning to print associations. For sound to print associations to work, we still use them as adults when we encounter new, foreign, unknown words like my name that was reprinted 3 times today. Right? You have to use your phonetic root. However, if you're encountering there, and there, you know, with the they, there, that's there, you get it. Or bear and bear. The only way you're going to figure this out is going through the semantic root and mapping the meaning of the word to the orthographic root. So we have this parallel processing streams that are interacting with each other as we learn how to read. And the interesting thing is that the brain itself is built on dorsal and ventral pathways. The dorsal pathway going this way that supports the phonological processing, and the ventral pathway that supports the semantic processing. And so as children are learning to read, they're utilizing these neural pathways. And what's even more interesting, they're changing these neural pathways. So these changes, they change developmentally. The brain of a 6-year-old reader doesn't look the same as the one of yours. What's even more interesting is the changes are developmental, but they're also language specific. So the change that a Spanish-speaking child undergoes is different from the change that the brain of a Chinese-speaking child undergoes. So a couple of people here, I suspect, read in Spanish in this room. So if you're going to read the word gato, you're going to spell G-A-T-O. I apologize, I know Russian but not Spanish. So here comes the Latin alphabet. However, if you're going to read in Chinese, and for instance, something like a word tree, you're going to have to map the entire thing onto one unit character. And you'll recognize that character in words like leaf or forest because it's a morphemic language, so that morpheme is going to appear. So you have to really build up the muscle on the semantic root of your orthographic process. And we know that late learners of another language, myself included, will utilize whatever they come built with. So if you're coming Russian, which is phonetic, you're learning to read in English, you're going to overuse the phonetic root. The opposite happens for learners of Chinese. But what if you're born in this country, you go to a Head Start at age 4, right? And you go to kindergarten in Michigan. When you're 5, no bilingual programs there, Southeast Michigan, good luck. So it's not Florida and it's not Texas. I'm sorry, my friends, it's not San Francisco Bay. So there you are, your family speaks Chinese, your family speaks Spanish, you go to community church, your community center, so you hear the language around you. The print is in front of you, the parents are illiterate. But at school, you're going to encounter English. The question you may want to ask, well, if you haven't heard, if this has been your primary language of speaking, but that's not your primary language of learning to read, is that still going to impact how you read? So these are the questions that we had asked. Is that going to affect your phonological path and the semantic path? Being exposed to these languages, even in situations of English dominant literacy instruction. So to do that, are we going to have slides today?
I think so.
We're coming to the brain imaging point, pictures. I was hoping to show
Maybe?
interpretative dance of a brain picture. There's no chalkboard, otherwise I could print draw it for you. It's coming. All right. So, I see myself. So this is what we did. We brought in a group of Spanish-speaking children, so they're the children who speak Spanish at home. The parents say they practice some reading with their kids, but they're attending an English-speaking school. And we asked them to read pseudo-words. Why do we ask them to read pseudo-words? Because cross-linguistic research, I think you still, yeah. This is, looking at myself, it's kind of eerie. So the reason we asked them to read pseudo-words is because there's been prior publications showing that if you scan, you go to England and you scan English speakers, and then you go to Italy and you scan Italian speakers reading pseudo-words, what you're going to get is this massive frontal lobe activation for the readers of English, because English doesn't connect sound to print super intuitively. We're gonna skip some slides.
Oh, look at that.
I know, Nobel laureates. Our phonological and semantic roots that I kept doing like this, now you can actually see them. The ventral and the dorsal pathways of the brain, the gato and the tree. Okay, perfect, brain pictures. And unfortunately, they're too far from me, so you're gonna have to point over Linda's head and tell you. Oh no, there you go. Oh, I found it. So that's the frontal lobe for English speakers. Hello over there. And right here is the superior temporal gyrus for Italians. So if I had to, and Linda said to speak, what is it, speak stupid, right?
Simple.
So simple stupid. So in simple stupid, if you needed your frontal lobe, it was complicated. And if you didn't need your frontal lobe, it was automated. So to read words in Italian and a direct conversion, it's automated, it's gone to your superior temporal gyrus, and English was difficult. And because it's phonologically coded differently, so you engage the phonological root less. And those are the cross-linguistic differences for adult speakers reading in the language of their proficiency. What does that have to do with our 7-year-olds, right? So this was our question. Does that impact bilinguals? We know it impacts adults big time. But is it going to impact the kids? Is it going to impact their brain? Is it going to impact their literacy? This is how we do it. We use optical near-infrared spectroscopy. I don't know if you've ever had an fMRI scan, but it's one of the preferred methods in the neuroimaging. It's a loud, big machine. It's a tube. The child slides in, and then the thing goes da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da at 70 to 90 decibels. Not a good way to study language in children. We found alternative methods. This is optical brain imaging. It does the exact same thing as the fMRI. It studies changes in blood hemoglobin oxygenation, but using through the color of the blood. And the way it does it is it shines red light. I don't know if you can see it, but the red light comes through my finger. Red light penetrates through the finger, through the tissue, through the skull, goes 3 centimeters into the cortex. And then next to it is a detector, just like that. So there's an emitter and there's a detector. And so it detects the changes 3 centimeters into the cortex. So you're not going to get the parts of the brain that are breathing and eating, controlling, sort of deep down. But what you get is the new stuff. And language is the evolutionarily new stuff. So it's right close to the surface. So that works really well for us. And if we could play a video, that would be great.
FNIRS study can employ visual or auditory experimental paradigms. The system is completely quiet and is thus perfectly suited for auditory experiments. Participants should keep their head and torso still, which doesn't preclude them from giving a verbal or a manual response. Once all the data have been collected, the optodes are removed from the participant. The participant is thanked for his or her time and willingness to participate and leaves the lab. The data collected by the Hitachi ETG4000 is exported to another computer for data analysis. The FNIRS Hitachi ETG4000 measures the scattering and absorption of near-infrared light, from which the changes in concentration of oxygenated and deoxygenated hemoglobin are calculated as indicators of neural activity.
Thank you so much. So we use it, and we really like to use it for a variety of purposes. So it measures the brain's hemodynamic response. It's completely silent and makes no noise, especially at 90 decibels. It's motion tolerant relative to methods like EEG and fMRI. It's portable. You can bring it to school. You can bring it to a NICU. You can bring it to a nursing home, wherever your research is going. More importantly, it's the only technology to which you can literally hook up 2 people at the same time, 3 people at the same time. Good for studying poker games, but also mother-child interaction, parent-teacher interaction, right? So the things that we're interested in as developmentalists. So we had, this is ongoing work, so I'll show you what we have for now. So we have kids learning to speaking Spanish or French at home, and English only at school, and we used FNIRS imaging. I had told you about the English speakers needing the frontal lobes and the Italians needing the temporal lobes. What about the bilinguals? They're reading in English, they're not reading in Italian, they're not reading in French, they're not reading in Spanish, they're reading in English. What you get is the English speakers are showing more frontal lobe activation right there. And this is, so that's confirmed. And these are my bilinguals. There they are. And they're showing more temporal lobe activation. They're reading non-words. That's what you're supposed to do. These are words you don't know. You're supposed to go to your phonological root and the phonological coding. So even when they read in English, in a language that's not the primary language of their literacy instruction at school, they're utilizing the roots that come with their native languages. So that suggests that there's a language-specific influence of bilingual exposure on children's literacy. So what you have is the strengthening, literally the strengthening of your phonological pathway neurologically. Of course, all of you are going to say, all those brain scientists, what does that have to do with children's literacy? Well, let me show you. Southeast Michigan, does this have anything to do with these kids' literacy? Again, remember, we're in the Anglo land. So we have English monolinguals, and we have Spanish-English bilinguals. By the time we meet them, they're English dominant, even though all of them had started out their lives speaking Spanish at home. They're all exposed, they all go, our requirement is the kindergarten. By kindergarten, they were in an English-speaking school. English dominant literacy instruction. What we have in the area are heritage language programs. So 1 hour a week, they can go and learn to read in their language. That's why we recruit them. So about half these participants attend these programs. And our experimental tests are the usual number of offenders in literacy. And here it is. There are no differences in performance for the bilingual and monolingual kids. They're proficiency matched. That's good news. But the question is, are they reading in the same manner? Are there paths to reading the same? So we do hierarchical regressions. Here's an English monolingual. This is a stepwise regression, which means it's the survival of the fittest, who explains most of the variance. So rapid automatic naming and English vocabulary for English speakers, English vocabulary for bilinguals, English syntax for bilinguals, and English phonological awareness for bilinguals. Very similar to what you get when you test them in Spanish. Now, these are English dominant kids. Their Spanish literacy is quite poor, but nevertheless, what you're seeing that in the dominant language, they're demonstrating patterns that are similar in their non-dominant literacy languages, again, suggesting a really potent transfer for English dominant kids in the circumstances without any deficit to how they're reading. Remember the slide before? There's no deficit, but they have a stronger phonological leg. So, brain change, literacy change, and then you're going to say, well, that's lovely. How about on the other side? Let's take a look at the other side. Let's look at the Chinese. So in the interest of time, I'll just show you a summary. We tested at around 200 kids. So the final sample included about 133 kids. We used fMRI imaging. This is before we purchased FNIRS. And they also completed literacy tasks. So what we get in the bilinguals is stronger activation in middle temporal gyrus. This region is known to support semantic processing, meaning processing in the brain. And it's the exact opposite of what you find in Spanish-speaking kids. They have stronger semantic root. They're making greater reliance on vocabulary and morphological processing for reading in English than monolingual English speakers. And the opposite here, they're actually placing, there were enough kids here to do a path analysis for us to see that this is a significant difference. They're placing lower reliance on phonological awareness than the English-speaking kids. Again, there's no performance. If you just look at sheer performance, these are kids attending English-speaking schools in Michigan since kindergarten, so there's no difference in their performance in terms of accuracy. There's a difference in how the variables align in terms of supporting their reading. So you have, again, a language-specific transfer looking in the opposite direction. So what happens? Imagine language is a genetic code, and what happens is you have another language that literally cuts into that genetic code, attaches to it, and changes your DNA, and changes DNA of English, so that child now has a different English. The English of a Spanish-speaking child is different from the English of a Chinese-speaking child, maybe different from a Russian-speaking child. I'll have to move to Brooklyn, New York to study that. But what happens is that for a monolingual learner, you're constrained, right? Like a racehorse, you're constrained by the experiences. Whereas for a bilingual learner, that constraint is lifted and you have multiple angles of looking at the same type of information. So in terms of making practical implications from it, bilingual research suggests that the two languages interact. There's enough psycholinguistic evidence out there that the bilingual two languages are always active, even if you're not using one of them. They interact. That results in language-specific impact, akin to the one we just discussed. There's some evidence to suggest there's also a language general impact. They treat language and print more symbolically. They understand that the arbitrary relationship between print and meaning, that the sound K can map onto C and a K, right? It's an arbitrary relationship that you have to master, and they seem to do better at that because they have double the experience with that arbitrarity. And in bilingual practice, what we see is the effort of the parents instilling literacy in the home language. So in situations like this, where you don't live in San Francisco Bay, and you do live in Southeast Michigan, in the trailer parks of South Carolina, wherever else the immigration waves take these kids, we have to educate their parents, because we can't possibly teach their children in all these languages as much as we'd love to, especially in these remote locations. So educating the bilingual parents in practicing literacy in their home language and building bilingual pre-literacy skills. The Chinese children that we came in, we were able to see the differences at ages 6. So this is not what schooling makes them. This is the stuff that they come prepackaged with. The linguistic system is already built somewhat differently, supporting their semantic pathways. So pre-literacy skills are super important. Teaching parents is super important. I feel caught up. Me and my slides, we have caught up with each other. And as we did, and we'll have a chance to discuss this and revisit these issues. So as you saw, the numbers are relatively modest. So we're excited to have NIH 5 years worth of funding to look at the bilingual literacy in the San Francisco Bay Area to complement our sort of more remote location bilingualism, looking at the children who are attending dual language immersion schools. So hold on for 5 years. We hopefully will have better data and more information for you. So moving on to language, which is the foundation for learning how to read. Now the brain. The brain's part of your bodies. And body parts have functions, right? So when you're born, you have heart for pumping blood, and you have lungs to breathe. The brain also has some functional specialization. However, unlike lungs and heart that are already genetically built for you that way at birth, this stuff takes 20 years to develop, 25, and then it's all downhill. So it takes time for this specialization to emerge. And the question that we ask as cognitive neuroscientists, how much of that is the biological maturation of the neural tissue, and how much of that is coming from experience, because our children do take a long time to develop. So in particular, in terms of language, in case you didn't know before you walked in here, language is on the left. And in particular, we'll look at something like Broca's area. So even babies show left-authorized activation to language, that differential in terms of left minus right increases over time. So if we compare a 6-year-old to a 16-year-old, this is left minus right subtraction. That difference increases over time, and that's a very standard finding. The question is, what's in it? Is it the maturation of the cortex, or is there experience that has something to do with it? So a study by Pat Kuhl, they compared 5-year-olds of varied SES on the laterality of the Broca's area. Broca's area is responsible for your syntax, grammar, pretty important stuff. And so what happens is right there. So the higher is your, this is a correlation graph, the higher is your SES, the higher is your lateralization index at age 5. The higher is your lateralization index at age 5, the better is your language ability. So the way researchers interpret it is that enriched linguistic context provides you with greater neural specialization. Here's what you want to ask, well, what happens with these guys? Because especially if you're being a balanced bilingual, you're getting half as much input in each of your languages. So what's happening? Are they going to be delayed? So this is work by Erica Hoff. This is the earliest indices of syntax. This is when kids begin to combine their two words, such as mommy, come. So these are the first instances of sentences, and what's shown here very effectively is that the top line are the monolinguals, and then underneath the bilinguals in each of their languages, and so when they're average, you look at it and you're like, they're below. And not are they only below, they're below in both languages. But if you don't bifurcate the data and rather treat it as a continuum, and you look at percent two-word combinations across the two languages, those differences disappear. So what's under the hood? Is the cortex developing on time, or is it delayed in terms of maturation for language development? So we asked this question. We looked at a subset of participants that I showed you for the literacy study earlier. These are early exposed kids. By the time we see them, they're English dominant. And we have monolingual children who are matched for age, gender, language ability, IQ, and SES distribution, which is relatively varied. And what we find, what we do is we ask them a grammaticality judgment task. So the kids come in, they hear a sentence, they have to say whether the sentence is correct or not. What's inside the grammaticality judgment task are violations of earlier and later acquired morphemic structures. So INGs are more predictable in English, and not surprisingly, acquired earlier, and past tense and present tense S take longer. So we are contrasting the early minus the later acquired syntactic structures. So it's not just correct, incorrect, so it's not an error detection versus no error. It's the two errors that are being subtracted. These are important. These are markers of SLI and other things. And here's the brain. Here's what happens. So when we look at the monolinguals minus bilinguals, this is right hemisphere. This is the right hemisphere analog of Broca's area. Monolinguals minus the bilinguals show greater right IFG activation, so they're actually more bilateral. If you look at the bilinguals minus the monolinguals, well, you get the opposite pattern. You actually get activation in the right spot. So there's greater Broca's activation in the bilingual. So the people who are learning two syntax structures from early life show greater specialization towards the Broca's area when compared to the monolinguals. So bilinguals essentially, I would argue, have better cortical specialization for language. Timing of acquisition. So Lisa had mentioned I'd spent here in Texas, lovely weather, lovely food, lots of bilinguals. And So I was very lucky to peek into Dr. Bidor's and Peña's database of over 1,000 bilinguals. It's a 4 to 6-year-old bilingual children. They have over 1,000 of them, and what's shown here are just the ones who are receiving 50-50 input. So these are not the kids who are mostly receiving Spanish or mostly receiving English. These are the kids who are sort of in the middle in terms of their input. In the blue, you can ignore them here. These are language impaired kids. These are the red are the typically impaired, typically developing kids, and so most of them are in the normal range for both of their languages. But even for the children who are low on Spanish, you see here, they have normal English, right? And so the other way around, low English, normal Spanish. So if you look at the bilingual acquisition on its own should not be delaying child's development. By and large, they show on-time development, at least in one of their languages. And in good case scenario, which is right here, they're showing normative development in both of the languages. So what you see in terms of the brain is 2 being more than 1. And not only is it on time, right? So we have on-time specialization for language, potentially even advanced. And along with that is the lovely behavioral data on these on the Texas children. And Central Texas, this is mostly low SES kids, showing on-time development for for stronger language at the very least, but for both languages as well. So bilingual practice. Bilingualism, if you will, might constitute enriched environment, the kind that high SES kids might be enjoying from the high SES. And so this is an important fact to consider, that a lot of the bilingual kids are actually low SES. So if bilingualism by itself constitutes an enriched environment, you're experiencing conflict with 2 vocabulary structures, phonological systems, morphosyntactic systems, so that enriches your neural experience with the brain. And in fact, when we worry about the input, because we think that language is all in for out, right? So the more English, there's going to be more English out. So this shows that when you look at this, of course, there's going to be differences in vocabulary, but when you look at the semantic structure and the syntactic structure and the neural base and the neural correlates, these are actually on target. So that's language, my friends. How am I doing on time? I see, I told you I can do this. So, child cognition. So the last chapter will turn and we'll talk about child bilingual cognitive development. So everybody, oh, I shouldn't have done this. I wanted to ask you to look at Lisa's muscles and then ask you which one were you thinking about when I did that. So language presents you with plenty of conflicts. When we started to talk about learning how to read, we said, you know, bear, bear, and bear, and there, and there. So you have to adjudicate this. And if I'm going to throw in a situation with 2 languages, I'm going to present you with a double vocabulary of these things, and now you have to deal with it all. So there's been a suggestion that bilingual language processing might impact children's cognition by the virtue of them having double this type of conflictual resolutions. So bilingual languages are always active. This is sort of the 101 of bilingual language processing. Both languages are always active, even if you're only using one of the 2 languages. And what we have shown you when we look at literacy, they're interacting. Your brain is different, right? The Spanish brain, this acquisition of Spanish impacts your English, acquisition of Chinese impacts your English. So they're interactive. It has an impact on cortical structure. The idea that it requires greater attentional demand to adjudicate 2 systems that are always on. And there's also language switching. If you're in households or at schools where 2 languages are being used interchangeably, all that adds up. And the idea that there's enhanced attentional capabilities. If you've been following this volume of literature, there's supporting evidence for babies and young children as well as older adults, and mostly conflicting evidence when you're looking at older kids and young adults. What's with that? Why is the conflicting evidence? When one possibility, all this is a hoax, and there's no impact of bilingualism on children's cognitive development. Another possibility, well, everything impacts development. Nobody's brain is on a strike, right? You're exposed, if you're not, just like we had a lovely discussion today at the cross-cultural impact on language development, if your brain is not allocated to learning verbal labels, it's allocated to learning tools, right? So everybody's brain is working. You have various experiences. And so when you look at behavior, especially in 7 and 8 and up, you're seeing these various things having contributed to the attention. You just cannot distinguish which one was where. And the idea that behavioral tasks lack this sensitivity. So let's look under the hood. Does exposure to 2 languages influences the language hemisphere in terms of attentional processes, which is what we did in our laboratory. So my graduate student, Maria Redondo, was very interested in doing this. And so what we did is we gave children the traditional A&T task. And all you have to do is say which way the fish is going. In the baseline condition, there's only one fish, the middle fish. In the Congress condition, all the fish are going the same direction, so it's easy. There's no red circle, by the way, in the task, so you actually have to pay attention. And in the for those of you falling asleep, and on the incongruous condition, the fish is opposite from its flank. So that requires more attention. In traditional analysis, we subtract the activation for incongruous condition from the activation for the congruous to see the differential. Behavioral results, I would like to say there's a bilingual advantage, but I won't because it's a ceiling effect. And there's no differences, so that's pretty standard to what people will find for this age range. The children will not show differences in their performance because they're bright and smart and their frontal lobe is developing rapidly and they're having varying experiences. But let's look under the hood. Let's look at the brain. So monolinguals. Monolinguals are showing more right hemisphere than the bilinguals for this task. Now, this is a visual spatial task. It's a visual spatial task. It's supposed to be on the right. We usually think about attention as sort of a bilateral process. It can be language and non-language. However, some tasks come more so in the visual spatial modality, and some tasks come more so in the verbal modality. And for the flanker task, the standard finding is that children start relatively bilateral. So these are Sylvia Bunge's works. Children start more or less bilateral, and then by the time they get to the young adulthood and college students that we usually image, it's relatively right lateralized. And so what you have in the bilinguals, monolinguals, is they're showing greater right frontal lobe activation than the monolinguals. It's a mirror opposite when you image the bilinguals. You get more activation in the left hemisphere of the bilingual when they're doing the same visual spatial task. Remember, there are no differences in performance between the groups, but there are vastly different patterns of activation. We're the first to find this in the children. We are not the first ones to find this in general. So similar findings have been found previously on adult bilinguals. Adult bilinguals also show, college-age bilinguals, will show greater left hemisphere activation, left frontal lobe activation for this task as compared to monolinguals, again, in context of comparable performance on the two. So moving towards sort of take-home messages, 2 languages interact. They interact. We started by showing you the literacy literature, showing that the 2 languages are obviously interacting. They're impacting the legs of literacy, the semantic versus the phonological. You have increase in language processing. You have to process 2 types of literacies. You have to process 2 types of linguistic information. That certainly creates a brain exercise. That brain exercise, we think, yields a computationally stronger left hemisphere. That computationally stronger left hemisphere supports language specialization, potentially accelerates language specialization within the left hemisphere regions, and it impacts the way other types of cognitive processes are processed in the brain. Remember, the neurons are competing for their function, so it's sort of in a use-it-or-lose-it situation. Some of the functions are being won out by this hemisphere that has the most processing power. So if you think about the Rio Olympics coming up, right, a person who is a heavy weightlifter will look different from a long-distance runner. The muscles are in a different spot. So language is an exercise for the brain, and it's certainly an exercise for the left hemisphere. In terms of the bilingual practice, there's always that worry about the mixed bilingual language input. It's gone into some extremes, such as Massachusetts and Arizona. God forbid a teacher will speak Spanish to a child in the classroom. That is a problem on multiple levels. First, of course, the child will be more comfortable hearing the information in Spanish, but also there's no danger in the confusion in the use of the multiple languages in the same context. In fact, being presented with multiple information, with multiple languages in similar contexts, but potentially is not just safe, but potentially is even beneficial for the development. There's another brain graph over there just to demonstrate the point. So you see the monolinguals show ever so slight increase in the right hemisphere, but look at the giant differences on the left hemisphere between the bilinguals and monolinguals. So dual language exposure creates that opportunity, an enriched environment, if you will, enriched linguistic environment, even for a child in a low socioeconomic environment. Our evidence suggests it strengthens the left hemisphere. That helps the child master two linguistic systems, possibly has some consequences for attention. And in terms of implications and future research, this is the simple stupid is 2 is more than 1. 2 is more than 1. We don't fully understand what does it mean to have more language hemisphere increase during attentional processes. Does this mean that they benefit actually more from verbal instruction during executive function tasks? So there's plenty of room left to explore. But we certainly don't want to rob our children from the opportunity to learn multiple languages in early childhood. And on that note, I would really like to thank everybody who's made this research possible, the collaborators and the funders and the students and the parents and the participants, and you for bearing with some technological difficulties. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ioulia. That was fascinating. It kept me awake for for the whole entire time. We're going to leave questions to the end until after Linda Smith gives her discussant talks. But if anybody has a clarification question, we can take one as Linda gets ready to come up and speak. I guess it was very clear, even without PowerPoints for the first 10 minutes. All right, so Linda will be giving her comments.
Well, that was a hard act to follow, I have to tell you. And is Ioulia, is that how you say it? I should know this, actually, because I have a daughter who's lived in Russia for a lot of her adult life. This is a really important conversation to be had, and I want to go back and say where some of this started. As Lisa alluded to, our engagement in this effort started at the White House Conference on Hispanic Education. And there was a lot of conversation around what's the right thing to do. We had already been looking at some of the neuroscience, the research that you've just seen here today. And basically, I thought at the time that we needed to do more in this administration to address this, given the demographic shifts in this country, what we know about what's going on now within our classrooms, especially in early childhood as the bubble begins in early childhood. We really are on the cutting edge of needing to address and work with children on this issue of bilingualism. I stood up, as I am often prone to do, and opened my big mouth, which my mother would say, and committed to doing a dual language policy at that meeting, which now we have, and I'm really happy with where we've come over a relatively short period of time. So we do have a policy statement. If you haven't seen it, I really urge you to go to our website, pull it down, and read it. We actually think of all of the policy statements that we've done, it's probably the most cutting edge, that we actually leaned into the science more than we do or have done on other policy papers. So, I'm sorry, what? You can go to the Administration for Children and Families, and under Early Childhood Development, you'll find it there. So let's just, other than the changing demographics, I give a personal story, and I was listening to Ioulia talk, and she brings back lots of memories. As I said, my daughter has lived a lot of her life in Russia. She's right now in the Ukraine. She was, in her earliest years, we were living on the Northern Cheyenne Reservation in eastern Montana, and she learned to speak Cheyenne as a toddler. And I've often thought about that because I've tried many times. I'm one of those people at that adult age when you try, forget it. I have not ever mastered it. But she obviously lost that language. But over her lifetime now, she speaks fluently Ukrainian, Russian, fairly good in German and French. And I've always thought, how does she do that? Because my mind can't do it. And I get this brain back and forth. I just simply can't do it. And I attribute that to her learning Cheyenne as a very young child, losing it but learning it and keeping the brain functioning in that way. So I think that it's, and one of the things I was interested in, Ioulia, when you were saying this, is that she has now challenged in her work in the Ukraine of going back and forth between Russian and Ukrainian. I have a hard time between English and any other language, and she's now functioning in between those two in her work, and I'm amazed at that. But all of that said, I think that we now have, you heard me talk yesterday a little bit about what's important for policy. And I started, research is important, data is important, and then examples and those stories that we have. Well, we now have the research here. It still is evolving, but we know enough now that when my daughter was learning Cheyenne, other Cheyenne children were being told in their schools they could not learn in Cheyenne, that the BIA schools were saying no to learning the Native American languages at that time. So we've come a long ways, and we now know that that was a real mistake in this country. But that said, the neuroscience is there. We have that. We have plenty of examples now, and we're starting to get better data in. The data supports it in the sense of just the shifting demographics alone support better policies and better what's needed in this area. So so we've got all that, and then we look at the research that we just saw. And why do this? Well, you saw it in there, and it is important in terms of, I love the way you say it, it is simple, stupid, because when you talk about, exercising the brain, both sides of the brain, really that's what we're helping children do and how important that is. But you can call it what you want to, advanced executive functioning, we've got a lot of terms we call these things, but these things are helping our brain function better and our children's brains work better. So their problem-solving skills, you saw that, their memory, their working memory, their ability to focus, and many of the other functions of the brain are actually enriched by this learning of two languages and this dual language approach. So I think there was something else that was interesting, and we're struggling with this, and it was mentioned in terms of family, socioeconomic status, and the education of the parents. Those are two things that we're struggling with to figure out where do we go with this, because SES matters, and our children, we know from the data that we do have that our children are arriving, bilingual children arrive at kindergarten less ready than our monolingual children. Now that's something we're going to have to work on in this country, and I would be interested in people's thoughts on that as a result of what you've seen here. So that is a struggle for us, and something that we need to pay attention to. The other thing that was mentioned and we're thinking about, and I think it's worth having the conversation about, is what are we doing with parents of bilingual children who themselves are bilingual, and what are we doing to help them understand and support that language in their homes, rather than feeling that they should not be doing, working or talking to their children, which we hear constantly, that in many of our programs, the parents want their kids to learn English, so they don't want to speaking their second language. We need to think about how we work with parents to help them understand the importance of this. And that is a role that early childhood can play and that we should take seriously. So what does this mean for early childhood programs across the board? Well, we have some challenges on this one, there's no question, because we do not have a workforce right now that is prepared in this aspect to work in bilingual programs. We seriously need to think about our workforce challenges. We have them throughout early childhood, but this presents a new and yet another challenge for the workforce. So how do we begin to bring in bilingual teachers and get them trained and keep a language-rich environment in early childhood while we train more teachers? And I think that is going to be a challenge for us. So that's important. Bilingual assessment tools are, and I would be curious in terms of Ioulia's thinking on this one. We are challenged by this right now. We are struggling with this in terms of the Head Start performance standards and where we're going with this. What do we want children assessed, we want to do these things properly, but if you don't have the right tools, we can really, this could be a disastrous kind of thing. So I'm concerned about having the right tools and how to use them in early childhood, and I think those are challenges that we have to consider. Curriculums in bilingual programs are also important, and you saw a little bit of that in the introduction with just the cat. And how our approaches to what curriculums we use and our approaches to language development in early childhood are going to have to be rethought. And so we're giving a lot of thinking to that, but it is going to be a challenge for us. I think that the other thing that is worth us giving some thinking about now is how we really move to think about multiple, not just two, but multiple languages within a single classroom. It's one thing when you've got bilingual, but if you go to programs here in the greater DC area, you can have 10 languages in a program. So how are we going to support, language development, multiple language development with the kinds of, with the challenges along those lines? And I visited a Head Start program here in the greater DC area where, out here in Fairfax County, where I think they told me in that program there were 15 languages. So there's a real challenge to our early childhood programs and our workforce in understanding in multiple language programs, how do we support the children? How do we support the teachers? What's the best approach to working within that kind of framework? And I will tell you that we are right now giving a lot of thought to that without some answers. But all of that said, with this policy statement, when you do read it, this is one of those things where, in my view, you have to start somewhere. And so, this may not be everything that we would like to see happen. It may not be everything that you all would like for us to have said. But we have to start somewhere using what we know from the science, the data, etc., to start the ball rolling. So I'll close by saying that this fall, I think we expected in September, between the Departments of Education and Health and Human Service, we commissioned an Institute in Medicine, NAS, National Academy of Sciences, study on this, on English language learners. And that report will be coming out in September. We expect to see that help us take the next big step in terms of how should we be doing this work, where should we go with this, and keep this ball rolling, because policy is an evolving thing. Recognizing the challenges that we have is an important thing, and then starting to march down the road towards change and towards doing the right thing. It's a process. It's not going to happen overnight. But I think the research that we saw here today and that is going on around the country on this issue, and what we know is just the right thing to do for children now, I think that's where we have to start, and it's, I hope, where we are starting on this. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Lisa. Question?
Thank you, Linda, and I do urge you all to go see that the joint statement by ACF and the U.S. Department of Education. So I think you can find it in both of their websites. We have plenty of time. This is great for questions and for discussion. And I know Linda brought up a couple questions that she wanted her input on too. So what best way to affect policy than right here, right now,
Yeah,
right?
that's
So
right.
you want something heard, go for it. So Adam?
Hi, Adam Winsler from George Mason University. Amazing talk. Thank you very much, Ioulia. That was awesome. I'm very intrigued by the finding that the higher SES kids, showing more brain lateralization, and that you showed that the kids with dual language input at home had the same effect. But what was the SES of those kids in that study? Was there sufficient variation? And has anyone done this kind of crossing SES with equal language input in the two languages, right? For very low income, high stress ELLs in this country, the issue is, well, yeah, two language input would be great, but we also know that complexity of language input is also very important. And some people say that the complexity is better than just this amount of words. So do we know anything yet about at what threshold of low education parents doing poor input in a second language if they're not good speakers of English, for example? Do we have any information yet about how the two languages input crosses with SES and whether there's a threshold of how good the input needs to be in a complexity level in order to show that same effect that you show?
That's a great question. Thank you so much. So the sample that we have at this point, the analyzed sample is really small. So we have another I think 86 kids now in the pipeline. That data has not been analyzed yet. I've been in Texas and students have been collecting data. But for the sample that I've presented, the SES was very varied. We had migrant kids and we had some town folk who came down. So it was really varied. And for 20 children, I could do a correlation, but I couldn't tell you what it would mean, right? So I would refrain from making any strong statements in terms of our sample. In terms of the thresholds, that's a good question. So when you think about a low SES child and about the complexity, it's not that they're getting so when we talk about balanced bilingualism, we're not talking sort of, Royal British family where they're getting a lot of input in English and maybe a lot of input in French or whatever they're teaching their children. This is about kids who are getting a little bit in it, right? They're getting a little, and that little is then split. This is why I showed you that behavioral graph from Lisa Bedore and Elizabeth Pena. Let me see what slide number was that. I will have that. Oh, it doesn't have a number. So sorry, could we pull up the graph on it's called timing of bilingual acquisition. This group, it's truly amazing. So they're at the University of Texas at Austin, Elizabeth Pena and Lisa Bedore. They are looking at a sample that just finished collecting of 1,500 bilingual children. And so we had this, so most of them are low SES. This is around Austin area. So Houston is sort of like Florida, so you have high SES and low SES. What I've learned is that South Texas is mostly low SES. These are mostly low SES kids. This is why I really wanted you to show these data. Keep going, keep going. So it's towards the middle. Go, 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 go. Yay!
Stop.
Back.
One.
That's it. So these are low to mid SES kids in Central Texas, which is again sort of distinct from Houston, where they have more sort of a high SES population. They're ages 4 to 6. What you're seeing here is a subsample of these kids. These are the balanced input bilinguals. They're only getting 40 to 60% in each of their languages, right? Whatever little they have has gotten split, right, in two. And what you're seeing is that most of them in the crosshair are on the normal spectrum.
Here.
Thank you so much. So here they are. They're mostly in the normal spectrum, and those that are not for both languages are for at least one of them. These children are with SLI, the blue ones that you're seeing. And so I should have put this in here. So what happens is that the dominant kids dominant in one of their languages, on average, do better than these kids. When you just average their Spanish, and you average this, you take this whole group, there are 60 children here, 65, and you just average their English, and you just average their Spanish, they're below the dominant Spanish, and they're below the dominant. However, when you plot it this way, what you discover is you can't do that, because you've just averaged these guys with these guys. In fact, they're on target for the strongest language. They're not, right? So we see like barely 2 kids, are making this into SLI spectrum. But these are SLI kids who are low on both. These are low SES kids. Does that help answer your question? Sorry, this is why I put it in, because I knew my imaging data was limited, and I thought this would be a great supplement to answer these questions.
It's a good question.
Go ahead.
You may have just answered it. And I want to make sure I ask it the right way. You use the word bilingual and dual language interchangeably. This is something we struggle with eligibility at school level. And so when we talk about children, a lot of our children, work in Fairfax County, are monolingual for many, many years at home. They're hearing their dominant language, but at school they're calling them bilingual because they live here and they hear English on TV. I'm wondering what that threshold is really to call a child bilingual, because we're having trouble again finding these SLI kids. We want to find them as young as possible.
Right.
And sometimes we're confounded by, are they dual language learners, or how much language have they been exposed to in each language, and when do we see that differentiation?
That's a very good question. So the textbook definition, which is really hard to apply to toddlers, is that bilingual is somebody who can function. There's some aspect of your life in which you can function in the other language. So it doesn't have to be all of your life, but there is a restricted, if you break your life into school, home, cooking, daycare, eating, I meant. So if there is one aspect of a child's life in which that child can function in the other language, it can be, even if you even all you know in Spanish is how to go in and order food, some of the most sort of liberal criteria, well, you're bilingual because you can functionally do that. That being said, most of the literature will draw cutoffs between 10 to 20% exposure. So below that, the children will be considered dominant, right? Even before they'll call them monolingual, they'll call them functionally. That's why the word is functional. So the child, so if you read these types of papers, that's how they call them, functionally monolingual. Does that make sense? So the child is functioning in only one language. That's a good question.
Linda, did you want us?
Well, I'm just a little curious on the question, because in many ways, especially the younger, and we're certainly suggesting that based on what we've seen in some of the work that has been done out in Seattle in Pat Kuhl's program with, children as young as 8 months, we're certainly supportive and believing that we should start this at birth, essentially. So functioning doesn't exactly fit our definition. So I was just trying to sort that through in terms of how that gets applied in early childhood.
So what was?
Functional is in the cognitive literature, but it's not used in the education or developmental literature as much. Yeah.
So is the question in terms of classifying, diagnosing, in what context were you thinking? Sorry.
It's okay. No, I love this kind of dialogue around it. It's more about, often we're seeing these children very, very young. And so the question is the impact of what we're seeing, I guess really just classifying them, because when they go to school, oftentimes they're saying that they haven't had the opportunity, that they've been given less opportunity, and what you're really saying is the opposite of that. I think that's what we're going to be trying to argue, but they're saying that they've been given less opportunity because they've been hearing maybe English that was substandard if they were trying to hear English at home, or they were only hearing it from the TV, so that if they're showing a delay in the testing that they're giving at the school level, it's because they really haven't had exposure to English. And we're saying they're not at age level in any of their languages. In
So-
either of their languages.
I think that brings up an assessment question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Language in the term, because if there's gonna be a disorder, the disorder will be present in both.
In both
Both
languages,
languages.
exactly.
Yeah, this is what you're seeing, right? The language impaired kids.
A proficiency issue as opposed to a disorder.
And I think there's still some misconceptions that if you're bilingual, you will talk later. I think that unfortunately, we're still
Yeah.
seeing that at the school level, so that when we're making referrals from birth to 3, we're making that referral that, oh, give them time. And then they get to kindergarten and we have the readiness issues that you're seeing.
But that is in English. They might be talking and showing a different knowledge in their home language.
Right.
That is not present in the assessments in English.
Right.
Right.
Thank you.
I think the new term now is emerging bilinguals in terms of children who may be speaking only Spanish at home, for example, and then
Right.
are coming into the classroom and starting to learn another language and may not have had as much exposure to that other language other than maybe TV or out in the real world. But I think, and Lucia made the point that if you're going to be evaluating this child's language abilities, it's important to evaluate the whole child and to make sure that you're understanding what the child's capacities are in their own language, not only in English. And it's something that Linda mentioned in terms of, when they get to kindergarten, they're not ready. Well, what are they ready for? May not be ready to be completely functional in English at day 1 of kindergarten because they've been in more bilingual programs and they need to be able to do that transition. But that doesn't mean that they're not they don't have the skills or the capacity. That just means they don't have that capacity in English at that exact moment. So we have to be really careful with the terminology
I
that we
think
use and
that's
the way
really
that we
true,
think
yes.
things through.
I think the other thing, and it's why I brought up the issue of assessment or whatever we want to call this, because I think we need to be really careful on this, on as we move forward. And we've all in early childhood sort of had this, I do at least, I come out of the school of how soon should we really be assessing children and for what? Because the developmental span, et cetera, is so big in the earliest years. I think that the other thing that I'm concerned about, and I want to take just a second and go back to my way back history on the Cheyenne Reservation, because we were told in those days, that absolutely don't teach in early childhood Cheyenne, or we should not be using the language there. And there was a rebellious part of me even in those days, and we said, this doesn't make any sense, let's do this anyway. And we had a speech therapist that worked with us, and he was very supportive, explaining some of this. The reason I bring up the assessment tools, and even in today's tools, is because we did a lot of work in those days, pre and post, in evaluating children. It was a special education, or it was a program supported by the Office of Indian Education. And we found in just looking at the use of the tools that we had then, and the PPVT was one of them, that in looking at the Cheyenne language, for example, and the scores on the PPVT, guess what? In Cheyenne, they don't conjugate verbs in the same way, so the way they were being assessed on that instrument was probably, was wrong. They also don't use prepositions in the Cheyenne language the way we use them in English. And so when, and there are pieces on that thing that then became, okay, so what is the value of the tool across the board? And you have to think about those things. We would not have known that had we not done a lot of work and very early in figuring some of this stuff out, that, okay, somebody doing the interpretations for us in Cheyenne versus, what we were evaluating. But it's stuck with me forever that these are very serious issues where a child, the PPVT is still very commonly used. What is the implication of that for other languages? I mean, the Cheyenne was definitely one, and it's a smaller tribe, but look across the span and then say, what are these tools really saying about children? So back to the original point of kindergarten readiness, and I was quoting because that's what we're stuck with in this country. I really think that we need to rethink all of that, and at what age and when do we begin this this testing stuff.
Right. The cultural validity for these assessments is a huge question, and we've had sessions in this conference already yesterday talking about cultural validity and measurements and linguistic validity as well. And so there's so much that relies on these assessments, and yet they're not necessarily valid or reliable for the kids that we're working with. And so that's something to think about. And in my previous session earlier today on language, Meredith Rowe was showing language data for young children and the huge variability there is. So the child might be delayed, but there's so much variability in when children start talking, and just within a 6-month span, there's a huge, that doesn't mean that they're going to be delayed. That doesn't mean that they're low SES. I mean, even within higher SES, there's enormous variability in the developmental trajectory for language development. So you can't just say a child needs to know 50 words at 6 months or whatnot, because that's not how it works. The variability is there, and so you have to be really careful when you're placing kids in boxes like this. And we have a similar, graph from our early childhood study at Harvard, and with very similar, a very similar scatter plot that we've had published too. And we've always wondered, we've never tested, but we've always wondered whether that lower left quadrant was made up of kids with SLI. But David Francis has a similar one. There's so many people out there that have a scatter plot that's so similar in really showing what bilingual kids look like. This is really it. There's so much variability, and you have kids that are dominant in one language or another, and it really points to the importance of really taking an understanding of the whole child and making sure that you're not just looking at one language or one instance, because you're not capturing what the child's capable of and what the child knows. All right, sorry, go ahead.
It's fascinating discussion. So I'm Ami Santos at the University of Illinois. I guess I wanted Linda to comment on the issue of this. Well, we talk a lot about the importance of bilingual education and all these pieces, but there's also a larger variable that I think sometimes we miss, is that this understanding. Well, this is one of those things that in the larger cultural context, being a bilingual is seen as a value in some socio-cultural economic groups, right? Whereas in others, if you're coming from a low-income, say, context, it's seen as a negative, right? And so you have had an opportunity for your daughter to learn Cheyenne because it's, and the motivation for a parent to send your child to learn another language is very different than having a parent who's trying to make do of, their life in this country, and who have experienced racism or discrimination because they can't speak the language. And so I wondered if there was a way to kind of bring that into the policy somehow to kind of begin to address that larger issue.
I think that that's a really important point, and I would tell you that it's one that we've had conversations about, and we were just, in the preceding session, we've had a lot of conversations about this issue around cultural bias and some of what goes along with that. At this time, we didn't have enough, we didn't know enough to go too far into that, to be honest with you. Because we've just started sort of peeling back the onion on that one, if you will. It's going to be a conversation that has to be thought through, and I couldn't agree with you more. We seem in this country to be sort of bipolar on some things, where You know, I know any number of families that are well-to-do that have their children in immersion programs so they'll learn a language. And
They
yet-
camp out overnight.
Yeah.
to get their kids
then
in those programs.
Over
Yeah.
here, we put poor children in special education because we've decided for whatever reason, because they're bilingual, they have a learning disability. So we've got things to sort out in this area. We've talked about them, but I think for this particular time, we didn't have enough to go on. And I'm sad about that because I feel very strongly about this issue. And I will tell you that this was the toughest policy statement that we have written. And there was even a thing of people saying, well, let's not put Native Americans are in there. And I was like, yes, they're going to be in there. We should handle them separately. Why? Why would we want to do that? They are hopefully learning two languages. We're supporting two languages. You know, we need to do all the same things with parents there that we need to do with any other family. Why would we go that route? But there are strong feelings on this, and we're not of one mind in this country yet.
Absolutely.
But again, I say these policy statements, I have to add on this one, they start the conversation moving. And that, I think, was the ultimate goal of us doing this, is let's do what we can, use what we know, start moving forward. And maybe it's not 100%, but it's a start.
Hi, my name is Carolina. I'm from Chile. I'm a fourth-year doctoral student at UVA. I find this fascinating. I'm doing my research with bilingual children, preschoolers in the US. I have children of my own, so I have a lot of experience also in being a parent of kids that are being raised bilingual, basically. So I had a question for Ioulia and a comment for Linda regarding, you were asking for our thoughts. So as a parent and also as a researcher in these topics, I feel like a lot of cultural curiosity and cultural harmlessness is needed. For example, with my children when we came, two of them spoke a little bit of English and the other two nothing. So the ones that knew a little bit of English, they quickly catch up and started learning more and more very fast, and then they didn't want to speak Spanish again. And I was like, you need to keep on speaking Spanish because it's great that we speak two languages, but it's hard because you want them to fit in and to be accepted, and they want to feel accepted and that they belong and that they're like the others. So how do we have the kids feel like their original culture, wherever they're coming from, is of interest and that it's value and that's something that they're bringing in and they should be proud about? So I feel like a lot of it is because we will never have teachers that are qualified in all the languages that you need to have in a school. It's just, as you were saying, you have 15 languages in one school. But even if the teachers are curious and want to bring, oh, why don't you come and with your parents do a presentation on the country where you're coming from, or something interesting about your culture or something. But I feel like that is kind of missing in the public education system in the US, that curiosity about the other cultures. Mm-hmm. And the question I had for you was about parents. So what would you say if you had a program for parents or teaching parents about these things? What would you educate them on? Both of you spoke to the fact that it's important to educate the families and inform the parents. What would you say to them?
Well, that's a very good question. Thank you so much. Such a lovely comment and a thoughtful comment. So we've tested about 200 families, they're adults from China, and we recruit a lot of them at the Chinese Cultural Center, and they would all say the same thing. We're taking our kids to the Chinese school. The kids hate it. We hate it. We don't know why we're doing this, right? Who want Chinese characters? Have you seen them? And you're not in China. And so the kids hate it, and they make it hell for their parents, and the parents don't know why, right? They're doing this as if they're flying on an autopilot. They, for themselves, do not have an answer why they're doing this. And so that's sort of why we go in a circle trying to actually explain the parents who come to our study is why they're actually doing such a great service to their children, in addition to sort of literally creating this enriched linguistic environment and enriched linguistic input. offering their children's mind another door, another way to function. And so that's what, it's an enrichment, just like any other experience, teaching ballet, teaching dance, tennis, playing, whatever it is that you do. This is an enrichment for the mind, for the human being. Unfortunately, something I don't know if we can teach is the self-confidence for the parents and the value of their language. Right? You think you want to teach the teacher at the school, but it starts at home. Do you have the sense of value for your ownership for your culture and for your language that you can impart to your child?
I'd add something to that too, because I've paid attention to some of this, and I do think that a lot of this, I don't think we've conveyed to parents across the board. They don't know what we're looking at here. They don't understand this, that bilingualism is a strength. They're still, as I was saying earlier, they view it as, I need my kids to learn English, therefore don't speak to them, and they're, so they don't. I think we have to help parents understand that it's actually what it's doing for their children in terms they can understand from the research. And I've had those conversations with our tribal community from time to time, and it's almost affirming to them to find out that, oh, you mean there's the science really says that my kids' brains are going to work better. I mean, and it's get back to this, I know I'm sounding like a broken record here, but the simple, stupid kind of thing. How do you put these in terms that parents can understand and see it as a strength and an asset, not a liability? And that's going to take all of us working with parents to help them understand that. Because once they get it, I'll tell you, this is really powerful stuff, by the way. And I'll tell a little side story on something that happened. We're committed to this, and I think it was probably about a year and a half ago. This neuroscience and all of that, and we were trying to promote some things here within HHS. So Dr. Cool was in town, and I had said, would she come to the leadership at HHS and meet with them and go over what the neuroscience says about all this? And for 1 hour of lunch and learn with the senior leaders, all the people who do the legislation, the budget, the everything, she turned around an entire staff by just showing them some of what you've seen here. And I'm not making this up. I mean, we went forward, and well, obviously we're not getting it yet, but we went forward with the $82 billion budget request after that meeting. Because when the finance people, our assistant secretary for the budget saw that, it was like, oh my God, and that's only an example. That's why everyone needs to start using this and making sure that people understand the neuroscience, the impact that these things have bilingual on all of the functioning. It's so powerful, I just can't even tell you.
Right, and I just like a lot of us didn't know about this research. So how are the parents supposed to know? And so a lot of the parents that I've worked with, they all say, well, I want my child to learn English because I struggled coming to this country because I didn't speak English. So let them learn English first, and then later on they can learn Spanish. And it's like, well, no, that's not what you.
Train's leaving the station.
No.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time having to have those conversations, but I think we need to really have more of those conversations with the families on why this is important. They often hear from the pediatricians and from the speech pathologists, oh, it's confusing to speak more than one language. I've had many parents tell me their teachers have told them, do not speak a language only speak English to your children, and they come to me concerned because they don't speak English. So now what do? And I've had parents stop speaking to their children because the teachers told them you need to speak English to your child, and they didn't speak English. And the teacher's a person of power and authority and respect. So if the teacher's telling me I need to do this, this is what needs to be done. So they stopped speaking to their children, and we know that language input is so important. So I think the message that we get across, we need to really polish that message.
One thing that you can say that the language maintenance and loss literature is very clear on. The single best predictor of not having your children lose the heritage language is to insist on speaking it
Right.
successful. You can speak English with everybody, but when you're in the house and we're talking to me, you must speak English as whatever.
Yeah, whatever that language is.
That tends to work.
Unfortunately, the issue with this telling parents not to only speak one language to their children happens more with kids who have diagnosed disabilities. You say, oh, your child has autism, if you want him to talk,
Yeah,
you
and
only
research has shown that
So
that's not
flawed.
accurate.
that's
Yeah.
So flawed.
so wrong.
Yeah.
And yet there's that myth or, this misconception
Right.
among professionals who should know better.
Yeah.
That's-
Exactly.
One of the things that we did with, and I was going to mention it, I've talked about it a lot, the early Head Start childcare partnerships have been a big, investment for this administration in trying to build these bridges between Head Start and childcare. But when we started the partnerships, I don't know if anybody was in here with this, but we started every one of our regional trainings for new people with the neuroscience. And I think it behooves all of us, whether we're program, policy, whatever we are, is to make sure that our starting point is the right one. And so we should not go into anything assuming that everybody understands what we know or are on the same page. And I stress that really the science on this one is the place to start, no matter where we are.
Yeah, you had a question over here. Yeah.
I'm a Montgomery County teacher that teaches high school students. I'm just curious because for the first time we're getting some of the immigrants that speak Arabic. And Arabic is both written the opposite direction and it has symbols, but it's not like Chinese where it's a character language. What would be the closest neuroscience, do you believe? Because I don't know if there's any research, and I know that we're going to get an influx of more Arabic-speaking students, at least I expect we will. This year we had 2 in our program out of 12 preschoolers. One, the parent spoke fluent Arabic with the child. He was born in Iraq and continued to speak Arabic the minute mom came into the program, but spoke remarkably impeccable English, even though the mother told me he would not speak English. He did. The mother did not speak Arabic, but spoke Arabic at home. Child did not speak Arabic. Just curious
That's
about.
a very good question. This is a new type of phenomenon, not a new phenomenon, but it's a different type of phenomenon. Does anybody in the audience come from an Arabic-speaking culture before I say something incorrectly? All right, well, feel free to correct me. So here's the best of my understanding of Arabic. They don't write in the language that they speak. So they write and read in the classic Arabic. So there's different dialects. So just like there was an earlier conversation about the non-standard English, but we only write and read in standard English, there's the classic Arabic in which the Arabic world reads and writes. And then there's the local dialect in which they speak. So literacy development in these families is really complicated. You want to encourage it. You absolutely want to encourage it. It's an exercise for the brain like there's no other. It is like Hebrew, but Hebrew you actually speak and write. This is another twist of an exercise. So what you want to encourage, absolutely want to encourage the parents to do is the whole gambit if they can. But minimally, they should speak the language, right? So they speak the language. There's big oral tradition. It varies greatly in terms of home literacy. For this reason is because the children's book is written in a language that they don't speak. It's a very interesting culture in that regard. So you wanna, so you do want to explore it, and you want to read about this one if you're going into those uncharted waters. Yep.
And should the parents be also teaching the child simultaneously how to read so that they're functionally literate?
They should. I mean, everything is yes, they should. Those trains leave the station very quickly in terms of neurological development. So you want to be on that train. And given how difficult it's doubly difficult. So you want to encourage it.
Hi,
Go ahead.
I have a couple of comments. One is I really appreciate the policy document that I received a couple of months ago from a colleague, and I think this is a very important document for us in the whole field. I'm Lulu Song from Brooklyn College in early childhood education. So I've been working with teacher education, preparing our early childhood teachers. One thing I want to say is we are in this dilemma. A lot of teacher candidates too, that they are seeing that in their field that there's a lot of diversity and they want to serve children from diverse background to really use their own background, because a lot of the teachers are from diverse cultural backgrounds. They have linguistic diversity and cultural diversity. But then they say these children graduate from the early childhood programs into public education at kindergarten and are faced immediately with English assessment, and they will be penalized for coming from this diversity. And then they say sometimes we feel sort of torn whether we should speak more of the home language, even though we know currently it's going to support them, but then immediately in a few months they're going to be assessed in English only. No one is going to pay much attention about what they know in the other language. And also down the road at third grade, there's this high stakes testing, very, very stigmatizing for children and also very, very stressful. I was just thinking for early childhood, we are really the avant-garde for knowing the potential and the benefits of bilingualism for children and their sort of the lifelong success. But then there's this continual support that's sort of still lacking. The real bilingual programs in public education is very scarce across the nation. Most of times it's these crash courses for a couple of years, transitional bilingual programs for children, and then, okay, I give you some really crash courses to remedial, to help your English, and once you can understand some basic instructions, the homework, we withdraw that home language support. So a lot of the sort of the momentum we built up in early childhood is lost once children get into public education and no longer support it. So I wonder if at the policy level we could sort of coordinate efforts with our colleagues working with older children or the system at large to sort of not waste the momentum we build up in early childhood.
Let's FaceTime Libby.
Yeah. I think you bring up a really interesting point, and one that we've had lots of conversations about over the last several years. And I do think that I say to early childhood people, first, I think we come out of a developmental approach, obviously, to learning. And then it hits the school system with a thud, because there's more of a teacher-directed approach to learning and what happens to children in that. We need to push for more and better transition programs between our preschool, and you're right, I do think this is one thing we do better at. But we need to push for working more with the public school system on transitioning children from one approach to this teacher-directed approach in so many ways, and language is one of them. But I would never give up on doing what we're doing, because the school is not doing, I don't want to be quoted. The school has a different approach. I bit my tongue. But you bring up a point that I think is bigger than just the bilingual issue. Mm-hmm. It's approaches to learning across the board.
Exactly.
So, thank you. And I say to early childhood people, for once, let's push up rather than have the schools push down into early education bad practice.
To follow up with that one, just to put it in your mind too, I think the strength that we can come from early childhood and spread the word about this is empowering the families and empowering the parents, because they will be the voice of these children. So if we would like to see a better transition and more bilingual children, which are born in this situation, they are blessed to be born like that, which is a great resource for the country. the families are the ones that we need to be focusing on.
They are. You're right. And just so you know, for those of you who are obviously interested in this topic, I think yet this month, but it might be early in next month, we again have commissioned the National Academy of Sciences to do a study on parenting. And that report should be coming out, within the next month. And I would urge all of you to pay attention when that comes out. It's not specifically on this issue, but we know that we have a lot of work to do on how we support parents in the early years. It's a birth to 8 study.
Yeah, I think it's
So-
coming out in September, I think.
Is that,
I think it is.
that's the ELL, I think, is September. We're hoping earlier than
Yeah.
that. But anyway, it's eminent.
Yes, if you can come to the microphone. Sorry, I know it's late.
Is there any research on trilingualism?
Yes, there is. What are you interested in knowing?
Well, I have a lot of children because like a husband and wife are from different countries and they speak English. So, there's a lot of children like that. So I was just wondering the brain development on.
Yes,
Ellen's done a
absolutely.
lot of stuff.
So Lisa and I will be in a symposium together at the International Mind, Brain, and Education Society. So a colleague of ours at the University of Toronto will be presenting on trilingualism, and since we've read her submission since we submitted it. So in Canada, you have a choice. You can go to an English school or you can go to a French school. And so Toronto speaks English. I don't know if you guys have been to Toronto. Go to Toronto. Toronto speaks English. So you have immigrant parents in Toronto that speaks English. Send their kids to French. Wouldn't you want your children to speak French? And then these children are tested in English. And there's no difference in their literacy performance in English as compared to the English-speaking children in Toronto or in French. So these are your trilingual kids. So they go in, you can't avoid English in Toronto, and the French programs in Toronto will be teaching them literacy in English along with French. So these are French immersion programs with some, I think, 20% literacy support in English. And what they're showing is these trilingual kids are not at all behind. They're bilingual peer scores are from English. So looking at kids coming from, say, Spanish household who is going into a French program, French dominant program, versus an English-speaking child going to a French dominant program, their performance on reading in English is comparable.
And one other thing I just wanted to say that I tell my parents in our programs from 0 to 5, different languages, you're giving your child a gift. It's a free gift.
It's a free gift.
I have a son that I didn't give him that gift, and he'll always shove it in my face. So I tell the parent it's a free gift, and I go on, and we win at that. You win them over that way.
Thank you so much. We have time for maybe one more question? Or not? Oh, yep, Ligia.
What measures or tools can we use to assess our bilingual children? If you know of any that may be somewhat,
So,
good.
yeah, this is a good question. Oh, sorry, that slide had disappeared. But the graph I was showing, I'm sure Lisa will pitch in a moment, but so the UT Austin group has developed BESA and BESAME. So these are measures. Yep.
BESA.
Yep.
BESA, yeah.
Yes. So that's relevant for those of you. There was an earlier question about the diagnosis and the SLI. I don't know if this person's still in the audience. So that's the use that helps you target the child and tell you whether that child is actually off the charts on both languages. Because they should be off the chart on both languages if they're language impaired. Otherwise, they're a typically developing child. So it's BESA, it's BESAME. It's not your PPVT vocabulary test, right? It actually taps into, do you know syntax? Do you have a proper semantic structure? And so in Spanish and in English, if you've got a Russian English child that can't help you, I don't know who can, right? Or any other, or for that matter, Chinese, English, etc. So that's a lot more complicated, because the good thing about the Spanish measures like these are normed for children, bilingual children in the United States, not for kids or, in Dominican Republic and such. They're normed on US bilingual speakers.
And I think the CDI is available in multiple languages as well. So if you have 0 to, I don't know, 3, what is CDI goes up to 3.
Right.
It's been known for low SES Head Start kids up until about 40 months. I think Meredith and Barbara had done that, or Jeanette Mancia. So the CDI is available in multiple languages. Yeah. Yeah, Sandra. Yes, Sandra Barrueco has a book that looks at cultural validity of these measures for bilingual kids, or bilingual measures. It's available through, I think, through Brooks, maybe. And I mean, I give standardized tests, but I feel like they don't really capture the whole child. And so I think doing, if you want doing narrative samples, in addition to doing the baseline and the CDI, I think are important. And really just try to capture, I wouldn't do just translating if you don't really understand the intricacies of the language, because as Julia was saying before, it's the languages, or Linda was saying before about the differences between Cheyenne and English. There's so many differences, individual, unique differences, that just taking an assessment and translating it on the spot is not gonna work. You have differences in terms of what's more difficult and less difficult. You see that between English and Spanish. I mean, a word that might be easy in English might be more difficult in Spanish, for the same word. We even have found, and we have a paper published that looks at the Woodcock-Johnson, and kids who are from Mexican, Cuban, and Puerto Rican backgrounds all perform differently on language measures within the Woodcock-Johnson. So there's differential effects depending on just your Hispanic ethnicity on a measure. And so you have to be really careful when you use these standardized assessments and how you interpret those findings.
But it's possible. That's the key, I think, Matt. It's possible.
Yes. All right, it's 5 o'clock, so it's poster time. Thank you so much for coming, and I want to thank Ioulia and Linda for being our speakers today. And thank you all for sticking around.
That's a good conversation.